Welcome to Expert Views on ADR Ever, a podcast about simplifying the traditional African method of settling disputes or the appropriate dispute resolution ADR in a bid to attract more users to settle their disputes or conflicts with mediation, ombuds, arbitration, collaborative law, restorative justice, early dispute resolution, negotiation, conciliation, and of course, early neutral evaluation. My name is Chinwe the Marketing Liaison, Ombuds Day 2024 American Bar Association Dispute Resolution, and the host of Expert Views on ADR video podcast show. I'm delighted to welcome Diane Dimond to the Ever show. She is a multiple award-winning journalist, author, and former television correspondent who specializes in crime and justice issues. Diane has worked at National Public Radio, Hard Copy, The Today Show, MSNBC, CNBC, and Court TV. She has written for, amongst others, she has written for Newsweek, The Daily Beast, The New York Post, and The Real Clear Investigations, amongst others as well. She wears many hats, so I've left the link to her profile. Welcome to the show. So I have some thoughts on the book, so I'll quickly go through it. So Diane, it is an absolute honor to read your book. We are here to help when guardianship goes wrong and to have the opportunity to be privileged to discuss it with you as well. So I flipped through each page, the plot thickened, and initially I thought guardianship or conservatorship was established, to assist the most vulnerable people in our society. However, the reverse is the case. Your book revealed that transparency is not the name of the system, and that anyone can be conscripted, including celebrities such as Britney Spears. And she was not the only celebrity to go down that route. For example, you mentioned Amy Winehouse, who was conscripted under the UK system known as deputyship. Your book provided valuable insight into who the players in the system are, how they network with each other, and how bad actors get away, including lawyers and judges, which leads to the crucial question in your book: where is the legal community? It also opened my mind to the following fact: that Washington could help, but it hasn't, and that a lot of people recognize guardianship to end their marriages. Finally, the general notion that citizens have civil rights no matter their ability. Your book revealed their rights were restricted in some of the cases mentioned. Precisely the sad stories of Teresa and Susan buttress this fact, that the richer you are, the more likely to be conscripted. And also, what struck me the most about your book was the extensive research you carried out, the cases cited in each chapter, and your ability to inspire creativity and outside-the-box thinking. You provided steps people can apply to guide against guardianship and, of course, possible solutions to improve the system that is settling via informal process or processes. That is the alternative or appropriate dispute resolution. Particularly in your book, you mentioned family mediation or mediation. They are somehow related or the same.
Yes.
So the book is concise, to the point, and excellently written. It taught me a powerful lesson that turning a blind eye is not the best solution. It might be me tomorrow, hence it is important to do what you exactly did to change things. And if you can, and the easiest way to do that is through writing and constantly speaking and educating people. While you are at it, it is imperative to embrace the golden rule, Ubuntu, which you indirectly did, but I don't know if you call it Ubuntu. That's an African philosophy signifying I am because you are. And its 5 basic principles, which are survival, the spirit of solidarity, compassion, respect, and dignity for others. Thank you, Diane, for embracing this in what you've done so far and what you're still doing. looking out for the vulnerable people in the society, and trying to reach more jurisdiction in your quest to find out what solution to make things better for these people, and of course to make things better for the society at large. And thank you for being so brave and an agent of change, and for impacting your wisdom to people and junior scholars like myself. Without a doubt, your book has left an indelible mark on the field of guardianship, conservatorship, and ADR, as it raises a prevalent question: can ADR help? Of course, the answer to that is ADR can help. Precisely, early dispute resolution and mediation. So early dispute resolution comprises of mediation, ombuds, all those methods of settling dispute informally. So I did some interviews with some thought leaders in the field, and some of them do not want their names to be mentioned, and I also read some materials. They all agree that mediation can help, ADR can help. However, when it comes to adult guardianship, the mediator, I think I should talk about what mediation is. Of course, it is an informal method of settling disputes where you have the neutral third party, known as the mediator, facilitates or assists in communication between parties in dispute. It is confidential, it is voluntary, it is humane, it is convenient, it is inexpensive, it saves time, and it's empowering as well. So the considerations in the case of adult guardianship or mediation, the mediator should look out for is whether the adults can mediate with or without a representation, the power imbalance, the confidentiality and privacy concerns, and finally, participants in the mediation. The presence of too many of them might pose a challenge. So, thank you so very much. I think I'm done now. So, let me stop sharing my screen now. Okay. Thank you, Diane, for coming on the show and listening to what I had to say.
My pleasure. I'm so glad that you asked me to come on with you. And yes, can dispute resolution work and help in contested guardianship cases? Yes, but yeah. I think your audience would benefit if I just explained what guardianship is. For example, it is a protected. It's a protective system that every state in the United States has. There are no federal laws governing this. It's all up to individual states, but the programs are almost exactly the same. They are designed to protect vulnerable citizens, the elderly, people with Alzheimer's, dementia, physical or intellectual disabilities. Maybe somebody's having a psychiatric episode. They may be guardianized. Yes, you said that the rich are most often guardianized, but really it's anybody that has any sort of assets. But back to guardianship, it is supposed to protect the most vulnerable against us. And it really works. I mean, it sounds fabulous, guardianship, like the guardian angel. And on paper, it's great if a loving, trusted family member is named as the guardian. But after 8 years of investigating this system in states nationwide and finally putting it all down in this book, I realized that judges are not naming trusted, loving family members as guardians. They are calling on one of their colleagues that hangs around the courtroom for them to be the for-profit professional guardian. Now, why are they doing that? I don't know, except it's a crony system. It is a chummy collegiate group that controls guardianship. And when that happens, bad things can occur. Why? Because state courts in this country, let me back up a minute. When someone is guardianized, someone puts forth a petition to the court explaining why does the person need protection. Yeah. And 99% of the time, those petitions are approved, the guardianship starts. The targeted person is named an incapacitated ward of the court, and all their assets are seized by the court. Everything, their property, their investments, their land, their homes, their cars, their art collect, everything is seized by the court and put into the name of whoever is named guardian. Now, collectively in the United States, state courts confiscate $50 billion of wards' assets every single year. And because the average guardianship, or it's called conservatorship in some states, lasts about 6 years. This is a pot of money, $300 billion, that's up to be controlled by other people at any given time. So is it any wonder that the unscrupulous have sort of flocked to work within this system? Don't get me wrong, Chinwe, there are very dedicated, wonderful, compassionate guardians and lawyers that work in this system. But there are many, many, many who are not. They're predators. They're predators out for money. And once they get named as guardian, they're in control of everything. They're in control of the ward's life, where they live, where they, who can visit them. All their personal, medical, and financial decisions are now the ward's decisions. So ADR is great, but within the system, Chinwe, there is no room for it. It would have to come before a guardianship is ever established, because once a guardianship's in place, it's usually in place for the rest of that person's life, unless you're Britney Spears and you have millions of dollars to fight it.
Oh my days. So how, can you expand why the law allows people other than their lovely family to take care of these vulnerable people?
Well, that's the $64,000 question, as we say here in America. Why in the world, when there is a willing, loving family member, say the daughter of an elderly woman, why wouldn't you name that person as guardian? But
ridiculous.
It's just common sense. But in case after case after case, judges are appointing professionals. And I found that those professionals use the same lawyers, and the lawyers use the same guardians, and they use the same conservators and the same court visitors. And there's a group of people that all make money off guardianship. There's a medical evaluator who goes in to make sure that the guardianship is really needed. Well, I hardly found but a handful of cases where the medical evaluator said, no, I don't think this person needs a guardianship. It financially benefits everybody in this circle to have guardianship, because that's how they make their money. And why do the judges do it? Well, they get an awful lot of campaign contributions from people they appoint to these guardianship cases.
But Diane, you mentioned in your book there are cases where guardians are needed, and especially in the case of Eric, the NFL quarterback player, and I mean that didn't happen. So,
Why?
Why did that not happen? Like, is there some special cases where they wouldn't want to conscript? Is it the person into under guardianship?
Yeah, Eric Kramer, former NFL quarterback, tried to commit suicide, shot himself in the head, but he survived, and he really needed a guardian. And so his family took it to court. They wanted the right to represent him because he couldn't represent himself. And the judge in that case kept saying, no, I'll appoint a lawyer to represent him, but no, he doesn't really need a guardian, no. And it was so obvious. His former girlfriend came back and started stealing all of Eric Kramer's money. This man should have been in guardianship, but you see, Chinwe, the name of this game is money. for the unscrupulous in the system. Again, there are lots of lovely people in this system, but for the predators, it's all about the money. So for the judge to keep the case open, they had hearing after hearing after hearing on whether or not there should be a guardianship, or was the girlfriend stealing money from him. And every time there was a hearing, it cost Eric Kramer's confiscated money. Remember, the court's got all of his money. Every hearing, he told me, cost about $8,000. And there were multiple hearings every single month for years. He lost a lot of money. He figures he lost about $800,000 in the court system, not getting the protection he needed.
And so let's go back to the practices, because the practices in the courts, like it's not legal for the lawyers and judges to sort of have this click, or whereby you have grease my hand and I grease yours, sort of happening in the legal system. So can you expand more on that?
Yeah. Well, it unfortunately it is legal. You see, because the person at the middle of all this, the ward of the court, is incapacitated. So they cannot hire, in all but a couple of states, they can't hire their own lawyer to fight for them because they're incapacitated. You mentioned in the introduction, men who want to divorce their wives and their wives don't want to be divorced. Their lawyers are telling them, well, let's just guardianize your wife because she can't hire a lawyer to fight the divorce. So, it is legal what they're doing because it's all under the guise of a court order. There are families, Chinwe, who told me in agonizing detail, and I write about it in the book, how they didn't like the way the guardian was spending their parents' money or their disabled brother's money, or they thought the guardian was being mean or absent or maybe stealing. And they went to the police for help because the guardian they're so powerful. The guardian has the right to ban any family member who's causing a problem. So if you're complaining about me as the guardian, I'm going to just ban you from seeing your loved one. You're banished. So people go to the police, and they say, my mother is being kidnapped. I'm not allowed to see her. Help me. And the police say, can't do anything about it. There's a court order. It's, that's a civil case. We just do criminal cases. And so there's no place for the families to go. This is why a dispute resolution would be a fabulous alternative before guardianship or before conservatorship is ever considered. But they don't do that. They don't do that. And why? Again, my only answer is it's all about the money they can make. Guardians can charge up to $600 an hour. The lawyers who bring these petitions charge that and even more. The court visitor makes money. The medical evaluator makes money. The people that the guardian hires to take care of the ward, they all make money. And when the liquid money runs out, the guardian goes back to the judge, says, hey, the checking account, savings account's empty. I have to sell the person's house and car and all their belongings so that I'll have enough money to take care of them. And they put them in a nursing home or assisted living that gives that guardian a kickback for every person sent their way. So you see, it's not just this big a problem, it's this big and this big and this big. Hospitals who have patients who their insurance is about to run out, or their problem patients, they call their favorite lawyer or favorite guardian and they say, hey, why don't you get up a petition for guardianship for this person? And the judges just readily agree to do it because whatever is said in the petition, they just take as gospel. These judges don't have time to call witnesses and vet all the facts in these petitions. And I found in many, many, many cases, the petitions are full of exaggerations and downright lies. You know, like the daughter stole $1 million from her mother. Well, that's impossible because all her money was in the trust. Or the son refuses to take his father to the doctor, when in fact, if you just asked the doctor would have said, oh no, I see him twice a month. So, you know, it all goes back to the judges, doesn't it? If they just say, forget the guardianship for now, let's go to some dispute resolution here. Is there a dispute? Well, the family is squabbling about what's best to do with their vulnerable loved one. Let's figure it out outside of guardianship. But they don't do that. That doesn't make very many people very much money, does it?
I think that's the problem. But I'm thinking also, why hasn't the law been changed in the sense that when a dispute arises out of guardianship or when people would want to ask the court for their family or for whoever to be conscripted under the system, why hasn't a law been made that should go to ADR first before litigation? Because usually you find out in some jurisdictions and in America, there are cases where you have to go to ADR first before you litigate. So why hasn't it happened in guardianship case? Why should it go straight to the courtroom?
Yeah, the pendulum really does swing very far. It's guardianship or nothing. Why have there been no laws passed?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, it's the lobbyists. It's people from the hospitals, the nursing homes, the assisted living, the American Bar Association, the Guardianship Association. All these people are in the state capitals, shaking hands with the lawmakers, telling them, this system, it's just fine. We're guardian angels. We're here to help these people. You know, those dysfunctional families, they blame it all on the families. You know, like if you've gone to court to ask for permission and legal standing to represent your loved one, there's something wrong with you. You know, like the family is squabbling about what's best to do with mom or dad. Well, you know, families squabble, don't they? That's no reason to completely take over someone's life and future with a strict guardianship. I mean, these guardians are so powerful, Chinwe. I mean, yeah, they have to go back to the court and say, Your Honor, I want to ban the son or daughter from seeing her mother because they're dysfunctional. They upset the ward. But the judge always says, okay, you know, you're my appointee. Whatever you want to do, you go ahead. They're so powerful that they isolate wards. I have many, many cases in the book of people who were over-medicated. But the guardians are ordering people to be medicated. And a guardian, there's only 3 states that even require a guardian to have a license. Some states, you have to have a certification, which you can get online by watching some videos and taking a test. They send you a certificate, you're certified. A guardian can have a criminal record. A guardian can only be a high school graduate.
Yeah.
They don't have to have any special training in medicine or geriatric or family dynamics. They could be anybody. I mean,
you mentioned in chapter 8 how Michigan Gentle left his newspaper job to become a guardian.
Yes. Taxi drivers. There's a car mechanic in Texas that became a guardian. You know, it's a terribly broken system, and as I report in the book, it's been that way for decades. It's been that way since the early 1900s, when the United States government, in its blindness, decided to guardianize the entire Osage Indian tribe, because they'd become extremely wealthy from all the oil and gas and minerals on their land. And there must be something wrong with them. Look how they're buying limousines and sending their children to school in Europe. And oh my God, they're hiring white domestics to work in their mansions. They must be incapacitated. So the entire Osage Indian tribe in the early 1900s, including the children, were all guardianized. And who were the guardians? White guys from back east.
Yes, that's horrible. So, Diane, have you written to the legal community in America, and what did they have to say about all this?
Mostly, I'll be honest with you. Mostly, they say, "I can't talk with you. I'm sorry. This is a secret system," and it is. This is why the public has not heard much about guardianship or conservatorship, what it really is, because all the proceedings are held in secret.
Secret.
Because medical information might be revealed. So we have a HIPAA law, they call it here in America, protecting everyone's medical privacy. So most of the legal community, when I contacted them over the 8 years it took me to collect the information for this book, invariably they said, "I can't talk to you. Sorry." Or the judge has put a gag order on the case. And that happens a lot. Judges, they're afraid that the family member or somebody's going to tattle on what's going on, so they put a gag order. Now, having said that, there are some very brave and pioneering lawyers here who I have great admiration for. There's a case, if you have a minute, I'll tell you real quick. There's a case of a woman here in New York from France. She's lived in New York in her same rent-controlled apartment for more than 50 years. She's widowed. Her only child died. And she, about 92 years old, she had to go to the hospital for just a little surgery, a blockage. And she woke up and she was in guardianship. And she was like, what? What is guardianship? Who filed the petition for guardianship? Her landlord. Her landlord wanted her apartment so he could paint it up and sell it for millions of dollars. And so there is a lawyer here in New York. I know he's now working on another case, but his name is Christopher Serbigi, and he fought that for no money. He did it pro bono, and he got that guardianship terminated, which was a rare event. He's now suing on this woman's behalf. The landlord, the doorman who locked her out of her apartment, the board members who voted to go ahead with the petition, the lawyer who filed the petition, the guardian. So it's a landmark case. And I'm an expert witness in that case. I just filed my report recently. So there are some members of the legal community who are waking up and saying, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea this was happening, and I want to help."
That's good. So I have 2 more minutes to go, but I want to highlight something about the waiver of liability, because they get away with so much. And I read in your book there is a waiver of liability. Can you just summarize what that means?
Yes. Oh, that's such a good point, especially for the legal community.
Yeah.
When a guardianship is over because the ward has died, there's money left over, and now the heirs are going to get that money. But they don't get that money until they sign a waiver of liability that they will never come back and file any legal action against the guardian, the conservator, the lawyer, nobody. And it's quite a convenient tool for predators within the system, because it gives them blanket protection. Hey, I got a waiver of liability. They promised not to sue me. Now they're trying to sue me.
That's
and
horrible.
The case, yeah.
Horrible. Yeah. And the funny thing is that ADR is well suited for this. I don't know why that hasn't been picked up, So I think what I decided to do even before I interviewed you was to have a series about how ADR can help and invite people from the legal community in different jurisdictions, and particularly in America, to speak more, to sensitize about this more, and to know how all this can stop, because it's really unfair, what's happening.
And it's financially ruining people often in the final years of their life.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so very much.
Thank you for your interest in this topic. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much, Diane. You were genius. I read your book. I didn't want it to end. So thank you so very much for, being an agent of change and, making sure that other people get a better life, and I mean, it can be me tomorrow, it can be you tomorrow. So it's really, you're very brave for taking this on, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll carry on to see how ADR can help in making this right. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Cheers. Take care. Bye.